I learned something phenomenal about myself during the course of my recovery. But here's the irony. Sexually abused from my first memory at age 5, pregnant at age 14, also sexually abused, pregnant again at age 15, also sexual abuse. Okay, so you see how this is going? So 14-year-old, 15-year-old taught her whole life, don't have sex before marriage. So can you imagine the shame that I have believed about myself? And up until I got help in therapy, I had to learn sexual abuse changes the way that you live your life. It changes, and you're really violating children. And back then, Mormons I was married when I was 15. My mom was married at 15 as well. My mom had, I think she said she had 8 kids by the time she was 26 or 27. I had 7 by the time I was 27. And so so here I am having had 4 children already and never masturbated. Never.
Dude, you're youth, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but you seem like such a cool person that none of this ever happened to.
It absolutely.
You seem super normal, chill, fun to be around.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me.
Of course, yeah.
That means a lot to me. It's not been without a lot of work.
Really?
Yeah. And I think just even the fact that, I had to learn that I wasn't a slut, because the girls who sleep with all the guys before marriage are sluts. They're sluts. And it's a whole different standard if a guy is having sex with a bunch of girls and if a girl's having sex. I mean, once we get more than 1 or 2 penises in that vagina, we're not sure if it's going to be beneficial anymore, because now it's a little tainted. So.
Why didn't you guys just say fuck you too? You know what I mean? Was that not in your vocabulary?
Oh God, no. If you don't do the things, you're going to hell.
And you believe that? You believe
absolutely. Oh God, yes. You will not live in the celestial kingdom with God.
When these people are saying, so I'm assuming people have said some very nasty and hurtful things towards you.
Oh, yeah, but not just Mormons.
Okay.
Sometimes my own kids are the worst thing, but, we're all still growing.
It's like that sometimes, yeah, no, for sure.
No, yes, I'm very fortunate. One of the things that I do think sexual abuse a gift that it did give me was intuition. I think it really heightened my sense of self, my sense of intuition. And one of the things, I'm hyper aware of my body. So hyper aware. I'm typically hyper aware of the space around me. I can usually hear several conversations going on at one time. So I think one of my first memories of being sexually abused, when the abuse is happening, I am in kindergarten or first grade. I have pink footy pajamas on, and I'm actually outside of my body watching myself be sexually abused. So that's called splitting. I think there's another term for it, but it's something the brain does when there's so much trauma, and it'll split. And I don't know if you've talked to any other sex abuse survivors, but it's a pretty common thing that when people have a traumatic thing, they'll often remember it like they watched it, like they left their body and watched it. So once your brain kind of learns our bodies do that anyways. Polygamy is where you live in a relation, you have multiple wives, so that you can go to the celestial kingdom. So it's okay for a man to have multiple wives, multiple sex partners. But it's not okay for a woman to have multiple husbands or multiple partners. Like, here I am, 13, sitting in church, and we're getting a lesson on, what do they call it? Purity. That's what it is. Chastity. Chastity is that's when you don't have sex. You're chaste. You're chastity. So you get that lecture on chastity. Don't have sex before you're married. And so they have these flowers, and they have these beautiful roses on one vase. And then they have these roses that are dead and dried over here. Okay. So then the teacher, the instructor, says to you, and if you make a decision, and pulls out the rose, and if you make a decision to have intercourse before marriage, takes her hand, crushes the rose, the dead one, and just drops it, and is like, that's you now. Basically, that's your vagina. You had sex with somebody, there's your dead vagina. Now, do you want to be this rose over here, or do you want to be this rose over here? Other ways that they did that is they would have a beautiful birthday cake, and then they just smash the shit out of it and be like, there, that's your vagina. They wouldn't exactly say vagina. They would just be like, that's who you are now. And I'm like 13, and I'm like, whoa. I think my vagina is already ruined since I was 5, and you're kind of fucked from the beginning. So don't have sex before marriage because you want to be a virgin for your husband, but you're not a virgin for this guy. And somehow when you're a child, you're supposed to figure that all out. And so nowadays, because I think information is more available, and I think suicide is more, we see more of it. I understand it. I get it. When I hear people that have lost someone to suicide, having been a victim of suicidal ideation myself, up until 2010 is really when I stopped waking up every day wanting to kill myself. And that's a big shout out to my dear friend, who literally just came into this very house and saved my life. You know what she did? We went out drinking a lot, and we had an amazing good time.
Dude, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
She just really taught me how to live. And because of that beautiful relationship, I ended up meeting my partner, Jeremy. And I have a really beautiful life now. But beautiful life. Even, I've been really sick. I'll take it any day. But it has been a ton of work to overcome the damage that being Mormon did to me in my life, and the confusion. What is the statistic? 3 out of 4 Mormon girls are sexually molested. So can you just imagine how many girls are confused why it's okay for their dad or brothers or uncles that hold this high priesthood power, because the men have a priesthood power bestowed on them. So these men have this high priesthood power bestowed on them, but then they sexually violate them, make them the dirty dead rose, and it's not even their choice. They're just little. And the brain doesn't just think, oh, that's not my fault. I was just a child. So now I am pure, and now, even though I've been raped multiple times, for this husband, I am pure.